Very warm welcome to ET Energy World. Today we have with us Mr. Akilur Rahman. He is the Chief Technology Officer at Hitachi Energy India. Welcome, sir.
Thank you, Arushi. It's my pleasure to join this chat. And so very excited to have the question also discuss about the transition of energy which can lead to net zero.
Yes. So, sir, today's fireside chat is, it'll be revolving around how do we get started and how do we accelerate towards net zero. So, first of all, let me begin by asking you, what are the technologies and solutions? How are these technologies and solutions have evolved in order to achieve net zero goals through energy transition?
Okay, so I would start with, of course, my focus would be on the energy because that can contribute very significantly towards the net zero target. So when we talk about energy transition, and especially transitioning the energy from uh, fossil fuel based electricity to the renewable energy. So that's the key differentiator in the energy space to achieve the net zero. And the technologies, if we look at renewable energy, has been there in the power and energy domain, but it's getting more and more popular, and also getting in more and more penetrating into the industry, utilities, infrastructure space. So renewable energy, when we say it's the solar energy, it's the wind energy, it's also the hydroelectric energy, which has been there in our country since long. Uh, I will give example of how these energies, of course, the generation of energy, uh, they have been there, but very important here is to evacuate the energy, this type of renewable energy in a large scale from remote areas, distant areas to the load centers. That is the key, and then the technologies for those energy to be evacuated and also transferred to the load center. So uh, here we have a technology called high voltage direct current, HVDC technology for the transmission. So earlier it used to transfer the renewable energy, hydroelectric energy in a long distance from, let's say, northeast to Agra center of. So this is a project which we executed with HVDC. So 6,000 megawatts of energy, which was planned to be transferred from northeast, because the northeast has a lot of hydroelectric power and energy, and to the center of the country, like Agra is the location they chose. So northeast to Agra, more than 1,500 kilometers and 6,000 megawatts of power can be transferred from northeast to Agra. So HVDC technology is used there, and our technology, Hitachi Energy technology, ABB technology, is used. So that was one example, and recently we also commissioned another HVDC technology, that power evacuation from Raigad to Pugalur. Raigad is in the center of the country, and Pugalur on the southern side in Tamil Nadu. This is to again transfer bulk of power uh, bidirectional. So on the southern side, we have a lot of wind energy. So whenever there is a excess of energy, wind energy, and that can be transferred towards the center of the country, the Raigad, where you have the thermal energy. So that way you can balance, you can reduce the thermal energy and then have more of wind energy, that is the renewable energy. And whenever there is a shortfall of wind energy in the southern part, so you can also transfer. So bidirectional bulk power transfer, again, 6,000 megawatts of power which can be transferred. So this power electronics is basically what we normally use in our day-to-day electronics. There it is, in terms of 10 volt, 50 volt, 110 volt, like that, and milliamperes. But then power electronics is more on the uh, high voltage, extra high voltage range. So
Right.
800 kilovolt, for example, and then the 10, 20 kilo amperes. So you can imagine that type of power it has to transfer, and also it has to control. The beauty of HVDC transmission is that we can control the power from zero to the maximum capacity, and also we can reverse the power from one direction to other direction. So it's a very niche technology. So this is one technology. The other technology, of course, is flexible AC transmission. The reason why we need very real-time control of power transmission with the technologies like HVDC is that power system, the electricity works on the 50 hertz frequency, which is like a 20 millisecond cycle. So 20 millisecond is a very short time. So it has any balance of or imbalance of power within this cycle can create actually a problem in the grid. So grid can get into the tripping mode. Some lines can trip, cascaded tripping, unstable mode it can go into. So that's why this technology we use, and the real time. So in this, the technologies which have been used since many decades, the automation technology, the power electronics, the electronics, the sensors, the edge computing, protection and control, and real-time automation, they have been used since the inception of computer technology, and the SCADA, and also the energy management system. What we are also doing now is that we are extending this with the digital technologies to have sensors on these equipment, the critical power energy equipment, to monitor their health, the performance of the equipment, and also apply a lot of predefined algorithms, highly mathematical algorithm based on the physics and chemistry of the process and equipment. And on top of that, of course, the AI ML based algorithms we apply so that it can be uh, the any malfunction, any failure can be predicted in advance, and we can also have the expert system based, solving the problems proactively with this. So
Yeah.
of course, there are storage technologies storing the energy because the renewable power is intermittent. So how do we have the power, the energy stored during the peak hours of renewable energy when it's in excess? So storage in terms of battery energy storage, in terms of green hydrogen, fuel cell-based storage, of course, pumped hydro storage, which has been there for a century. So these combination, and of course on the beach side, electric vehicle charging. How do we, have this green power consumed on the in the electric vehicle for the charging, and depending on the charging, like the normal charging, fast charging, ultra fast, flash charging. So these are the technologies which are there, which can coexist with the grid, with the renewable power, to achieve the net zero target. And of course the microgrid, where we have the remote areas where we can have the own grid which can supply the power from the renewable sources. It can be also connected to the grid. So these are the ones which are evolving, of course. So in summary, it is the core domain technologies of energy generation, energy transmission, distribution, management, and of course the digital technologies to get extra mileage out of this entire system, and also bring in more kind of predictability in the system.
Right, right. So, sir, how do we backcast the country's 2017 net zero targets through 2030 till now?
Yeah. So we have to look at, of course, the first thing is to look at the current state, where how much renewable energy, I mean, in the country level, we have the target, of course, for 2030, that half of the energy would be coming from renewable energy
Right.
sources.
Mm.
Some states, they have already achieved it. For example, Karnataka achieved the renewable energy target, 50% target, already in 2021, because it has got a lot of hydroelectric power generation, as well as the renewable power, large power, solar park they developed. So that's how we achieved it. Other state, they have to catch up. Uh, and that is why we have to see today what's the composition of energy in each state uh, with respect to renewable energy and the conventional energy. And then develop a roadmap that how we can increase the renewable energy. At the same time, as I said, it's not just increasing the renewable energy, whether it is solar, wind, uh, or maybe hydroelectric, more of hydroelectric, and also having the storage of energy, but also ensuring that the grid is able to take this, because these energy, they are intermittent. So that means they cannot be automatically balanced with demand and generation. So you have the limit of the renewable energy depending on the weather condition and then the use of the natural resources. So that's why we need to have the grid which can take this power with automation, with HVDC kind of power evacuation. For example, you see here nowadays, we have a lot of renewable energy generation coming up in the remote areas. For example, Leh, Ladakh,
Right.
tens of
Hmm.
gigawatts of renewable energy, but they have to be transferred to the load center because there
Hmm.
is
Hmm.
there. And similarly, in the deserts of Rajasthan, Gujarat, and Kutch, the
Hmm.
region. So transferring the power, and then that is why long distance, sometimes it is also mid distance. The transfer of power has to be done with HVDC, for example, because that way it gives more stability to the system, to the grid. And so this is how all these planning, they have to be synchronized. So starting from today, take the as is, like doing the as is analysis of the energy map in terms of generation, the load, how the load is increasing, how the process plants, they are also planning for, let's say, their net zero targets, the industries. So they are looking forward to the renewable energy. For example, the steel plants, the oil and gas, they are looking for how they can use the renewable energy for producing hydrogen for their own process requirements, making of a steel or making of oil and gas. Uh, so that is why it's a multi-stakeholder kind of planning to happen, from the government policy making bodies to industry to utilities, and also the technology providers, that okay, we have to have not only the generation but also evacuation system, the technologies, the equipment, everything is, the capacity building also has to happen. So that's how we can so sort of backcast and also start from today. I mean, the actions are, they already the actions are already in place. So from now, how do we progress every year, every 2 years, with respect to achieving this renewable energy target, energy storage, and also looking at the evolving loads like the electric vehicles, the electrification, railway electrification, which is going metros. So more of like electricity in the infrastructure industry, utility space, which is coming. So how do we sort of synchronize all these planning? So that's important. Yeah.
So as we were, we were discussing how what needs to be done on an overall basis. But when we speak of specifically, let's say utilities, industries, and what kind of infrastructure do we need when we are speaking of, getting started or accelerating the energy transition?
So infrastructure planning has different aspects. One, of course, the technologies, like the technologies I talked about, whether it is power evacuation with power electronics, HVDC, flexible AC transmission system, the static compensator. So these are the technologies which are there. Storage, I talked about the battery energy storage, green hydrogen fuel cell, pump hydro, EV charging, different modes, different microgrid technology. Offshore wind, for example, we can have the wind not only on the land but also wind power in the sea
Offshore.
and
Yeah.
offshore, so it can be
Hmm.
transferred to the land through, let's say, subsea cable. But when they plan for it, one is, of course, it needs lot of investments, the capital expenditure. For example, if you want to set up the renewable, which is, of course, which is already there, and a lot of funds are available. But when it comes to the transmission system, upgrading the grid, it needs capex. At the same time, for example, you want to set up the the EV charging. EV charging standalone is fine because that based on the demand it happens by the OEMs. But we need to go for, let's say, integrated EV charging station where different type of vehicles can be charged. It's like a petrol station. You can have the buses, they can be charged. You can have the trucks. You can have the four-wheelers, cars, three-wheeler, two-wheeler. It can be plug-in charging, or it can be also swappable battery charging, or it can be also delivering the charger at the location of the vehicle. So these they have to be. So then it needs capital expenditure. So there we need business model innovation. So in addition to the technology innovation, implementing these technologies, but also business model in terms of how the capex required for this can be converted to opex for the owners and operators, so that they will be encouraged to set up the system in a large way infrastructure point of view. And then over a period of time, as it grows and with the energy and also the EV charging, so it will be self-sustainable. So bringing in this kind of technology at the same time, when we have these systems in place and which are tied up with the finance, with the business model, it's very important to also monitor the performance of these systems, ensure that they're operating efficiently. The assets, they are also with maximum performance level, because any asset malfunctioning or failing, it can lead to interruption, disruption in the power, which will be a loss to the owners, operators, and the utilities. So that way, we need the digital technologies so that we can monitor these assets, and also have the system which will automatically provide prediction of the asset functionality, any failure of the asset which is going to happen. So these technologies, they are used. And here we also need to see that how this consumption of energy is going to be also evolved into presumption of energy. Consumers will be
Consumers.
consumers as individual, or as industry infrastructure, or large multi complexes, residence. So we'll have also the, let's say, energy which is generated from solar rooftop, and we can consume and at the same time and store it. And when we don't want, we don't, it's not required for us. We are maybe on not at home. So how do we sell it to the grid, or maybe to the consumer remotely? There having a smart contract, so blockchain technology can be used there. So I think, and when it comes to the prosumer, so you also have the innovation required in user experiences, whether it's individual or industry. So how do they get to know about the energy availability, the price, and how they can sell it, when they should sell it, the time of the day metering, and having the smart meters there. So three types of thing: technology innovation, business model innovation, and then the user experience innovation. The three, they are required, and they are required by different stakeholders: technology OEMs, owners, operators of the system, prosumers, and of course the service providers. So this needs really a very strong collaboration among all these stakeholders, and of course the government, utilities, policy making body. They also have to support in terms of providing, let's say, infrastructure, the power, the land, and also uh, the regulatory, requirements, including the grid code compliance. Yeah.
I think you already covered the technology side and the business model. That was going to be my next question. Just to, if you could highlight the key aspects when it comes to innovation which is required in technology and business model.
As I said, collaboration among different stakeholders is very important here. I mean, unlike earlier, when the different systems, whether it's generation, transmission, and distribution, they were very strongly, defined in different silos, I would say. I mean, of course, that way it was there, like the flow of power from generation to transmission to distribution. But now they are all distributed. The generation, transmission, distribution, presumption, they are all distributed. And then they have to uh, they have to be addressed simultaneously, concurrently. So that's why this collaboration is very important, and also having the pilots. Let's say we would like to set up. I'll give one example. Uh, when it comes to EV charging, I talked about the integrated EV charging station, like a
Yeah.
petrol bunk. Any type of vehicle can be charged. Any type of whether you want normal charging, you want fast charging. In 10, 20 minutes, you can charge your car for 120, 100, 200 kilometers. Ultra fast charging, for example, 5 minutes, your car can be charged for 200 kilometers. Flash charging is something where the buses, they can be charged for 20-second top up charging whenever they stop near the bus stop. So this type of EV charging station, they need huge power. It can be, let's say, on the highways or on the outskirts of the city, or maybe within the city. And example of this integrated EV charging station on the highways. So there, government is also planning for, let's say, solar PV on the side of the highways. That way, you have the, let's say, land where you can set up the solar PV plant for 20, 30, 50 megawatts, and then you can also have, let's say, the EV charging station together with that, so co-located
Mm.
nearby. And then you can also have the energy storage, battery energy storage or hydrogen. So solar PV, integrated EV charging, and then the storage, battery energy storage system there. So three can be integrated, and then you can call it like green green charging of EVs, basically, because the source of power is green and it is coming from the solar. And so that way it can also bring in some kind of new business model where you have on the highways this type of stations there, and you also have, let's say, for the passengers, for the drivers, people who move, for them also facilities of restaurant and having, stay there, and then you have so co-located, so the different business model can also be enabled with that, not only for energy generation, charging EV, but also people, having their stay, or having food there with the restaurants with. So this is the example of how the innovation should happen. And if you see, there are different stakeholders, they have to come together. The solar PV, the solar energy generating companies, the EV charging infrastructure owners, operators, and then the energy storage. So the
Mm.
technologies are, of course, different, but it can be a single entity which can do all those, or it can be different entities doing, but then they have to work together. And another important thing here is, while we talk about utilities, industries, and the workforce learning about this new technology, but we also have to bring in the academia, the students, the next generation workforce in these areas, so that they will learn about the technology, but they will also see that how they can be integrated with a larger ecosystem of energy transition. And this is again changing very fast. The technology, the core technologies are changing, but also the integration technologies, whether it is integrating all these different elements, or digitalization, and also having more predictability in the system. So energy transition and digital transformations, they have to go together. And our future workforce, they also have to learn this while they are in academia, studying the subjects. So it has to be interdisciplinary. Maybe one is doing specialization in one area, but they have to also know about other areas, how to bring in the knowledge of, let's say, digitalization, knowledge of energy science, uh, let's say knowledge of green hydrogen, how it is produced, electrolyzer technology, so that they know that the entire ecosystem has to work together. And yeah.
So, as you mentioned, that technologies are, ever changing. But what are the core technologies and digitalization methods, and also, the kind of last mile actions that we need? to achieve these goals of energy transition?
I would always say that last mile, I mean, while all these technologies are there, I think the generation side, it is happening. For example, we have the generating solar generation, the wind, they're getting set up. On the transmission distribution side, also it is happening, but storage side, again, it is, although technologies are there, but the cost is coming into factor, who is going to invest and all. So I think the last mile is basically, I would say that the stakeholders, they come up with a, let's say, proposal to say that, okay, so I'm in Bangalore, for example. In Bangalore, they come up with one area where they would like to set up a green EV charging station. So the same example I gave. So then they should work with the stakeholder, come up with a proposal that in this area, if we would like to have the EV charging station, so how many buses, the cars, commercial vehicle, two-wheelers, three-wheelers, they can be charged, and how much of energy storage is required, and how much of solar PV is required if it is on the outskirts. So together, make a proposal to the stakeholder, and also bring in more than that. I think also bring in some kind of funding. So there are a lot of green funding, green energy funding available. I hear that there is no issue in funding. I mean, it's all about where do we fund, where they can be invested. So I think this is the last mile gap we have, because everybody is looking at their own technology, own installation, but then the capex is not there. They are not able to make it viable, or are not able to demonstrate the ROI. But together it can be done. So make a proposal, and then do this modeling in terms of convert the capex to opex, so that the owner operator also can uh, run it sustainably. And then once the infrastructure is there, I think we'll also see, let's say, a lot of vehicles will also be, the people who are planning to move to the electric vehicles, they can also be encouraged to see that, oh, there is a charging station, there is a green charging station, uh, power is available, so we can go for our electric vehicles. So like that, and storage also that way, that they will be ensured that you have the power available around the clock for that. Yeah. So I would say the last mile is about, you can say, proof of concept, proof of value, with a sort of collaborative proposal. So technical proposal, commercial proposal, backed by the business model.
So lastly, we can sort of conclude that we do need a strong, collaborative approach to achieve this. But my question to you is, who will do what?
Yeah. So here, if you see, there are so many stakeholders there. I mean, on one hand, you have the policymakers, you have the government departments, then you have the energy generation companies, the energy transmission distribution utilities, which are again mostly the state-owned, sometimes national, and sometimes private. And then you have the owners operators, because sometimes, like nowadays, the electric vehicles you see, especially the public vehicles, the buses, they are on the gross cost contract type of model. So they are paid based on the kilometers they run. uh, I think each one, they have to come up with their own technology, but also how the technology can be implemented. That is one in the larger ecosystem, whether it is an energy storage system, or even, let's say, hydrogen power, where you use the renewable energy to produce the green hydrogen, uh, using the renewable energy, air and water, and then you have the system using the electrolyzer, of course. You have the system of storing the green hydrogen or transporting the green hydrogen for, let's say, the mobility, uh, or for using them in the process industry, for steel making, for oil and gas, chemical industry, or even storage, the green hydrogen fuel cell based storage. Uh, I think the bigger system can be always divided into smaller blocks, where each one of the entities, the stakeholders, they should come together, and then there should be a sort of platform based approach that we bring in everybody, and then we ensure that all these, first of all, the technology, the implementation, the system, they will be interfaced seamlessly. And second is that government also provides support in terms of policies, grid code, and of course, whenever it is infrastructure requirement, there is there in terms of land, in terms of power, in terms of water availability, and so the entire thing can be sort of structured that way, and each one can be assigned the role of you know you know doing what in terms of whether you want to, let's say, battery. The battery OEM can ensure that they provide the battery, and then they also have a model behind how they will service the battery, how they will make the battery available for the storage system, for example. Yeah. Similarly, the electrical system of the storage, where you have the energy management system, you have the transformer, we have the switch gear and all. So there, the electrical OEM ensures that they have a service contract where they will ensure that even after commissioning, after the warranty period, there is a service level agreement which can ensure that all these equipment technologies, they're running, they're working fine without any disruption or interruption. So I think this is how we can definitely work on and assign the responsibilities. But it's very much important that we need this collaborative approach and platform approach to bring in all these technologies.
Thank you, sir. I think it was a very informative discussion. You've pointed out some really important points, right from the need for collaborative approach, the technological advancements, and the kind of business models that we can explore. So, thank you so much for joining us today, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me in this chat, and looking forward to engaging further. I think this is a topic which is evolving. It is going to be continuously evolving in terms of technology innovation, innovation in technology, innovation in business model, and also the user experience. Thank you so much for having me here.